And good Friday morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to yet another weekly Friday edition of the Alan Fitz podcast, also known as the Chat. Hello there. My name is Alan Fitz, the host of the program, and welcome into the show. As we always do, we start off our podcast with our three main listening audiences, welcome them into the show. Number one, those that agree with what we talk about, they understand that we find the truth in the topics that we talk about, and they send this information out to family and friends and different areas of social media platforms out there. Number two, listening audience, well, they don't quite agree with everything that we say, but they do leave positive criticism out there in social media land. Of course, last but not least, the haters out there, folks, it doesn't matter what you talk about. They're going to find something negative to say. These people have not grown up in life and they really cannot see the forest because of the trees. So we just don't pay any attention to them. Again, welcome into the chat live from our studios here in Amarillo, Texas. And we did not put this in the title card on our Facebook page and on alanfitz.com website. But for the very first time since I began professional podcasting, my spouse is in the studio with me, Lila Kirkland Fitz. Of course, she's just going to let me do the podcast, but she may come in and chirp in from time to time. Welcome into the show.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. All right, folks, before we get started on the podcast, I do want to mention something that a lot of you may have saw, especially if you go to my main podcasting page, alanfitz.com, and you scroll down under the header. It talks about the Misty Roberts story. That's what we're going to talk about on the podcast today: facts, fiction, and theory. And if you will look right below that, and a lot of you probably have noticed this is the very first time that a stamp has appeared on our title card rated PG. This is parental guidance. And if your children out there do have a YouTube account and they are under the age of 18, they will not be able to listen to this podcast. That is a law, actually. When you get into sexual themes and things like that, you have to restrict your content, and that's one of the things that YouTube does require us to do. So, not any worries if you're not around and they're trying to listen to this, but we will caution you right now. Before we get started, that if you do have small children or underage children that may not understand what is going on, they may not understand some of the terminology that I'm going to use, you may want to get them out of the room because, again, there is a lot of sexual theme language involved in this podcast. So I just want to give that warning out there, not only to protect myself, but to protect everybody out there as well. Our podcast is going to take us down close to the bayous of Louisiana, on the chat for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going east of the Sabine River, about 30 miles along U.S. Highway 190. From the most eastern part of Texas, a little community called Bon Weir. You run over the Sabine River Bridge. The first town you come to, roughly about 7 miles in, is a little town called Maryville. And then on down the road, about 22, 23 more miles, you run into where this story is actually, the title is coming from, DeRidder, Louisiana. This is and we say county over here in Texas, but Beauregard County, if you will. But I think everybody knows that Louisiana is the only state in the United States that uses parishes for its territories. And DeRidder is no exception. This is the seat of Beauregard Parish. I've been through DeRidder many, many times. It's a very beautiful city. And for those of you that may not know this, it's actually split between two parishes. The northern tip of DeRidder actually extends into Vernon Parish, which a lot of you have probably heard that name. That is up there at Leesville, which is home to Fort Polk, the JOTC Readiness Training Center for the United States Army down in that region. But we're going to run it back down into Beauregard Parish and talk a little bit about the city of DeRidder. And ladies and gentlemen, these people, it's been 2 years since this has happened. These people are literally shell shocked at what has transpired down there. And, DeRidder, from the many times that I've been through there, they have a very beautiful courthouse there. As a matter of fact, that our title card that was being used all this week, that is the actual courthouse that you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner of the page. And within the city of DeRidder a couple of years ago, and we're going to have to I did not have the opportunity to do this, but I don't remember. We do remember reading it, but I don't remember what year she started as the mayor of DeRidder. But there was this, and I like to call her a young, if you will. And a lot of people have seen her picture. We've been looking at a lot of the Facebook comments, both positive and negative, on this. And I'm not afraid to say this on the podcast. I'm surely not afraid to say it in front of my wife here in the studio. But Misty Roberts, very good looking, attractive woman, held the elected position of DeRidder. Basically, she's at the helm of city government in DeRidder. But Misty Roberts, if you will, had a downfall a couple of years ago in DeRidder. And we're going to start off talking about this. And again, folks, I caution you that there is a lot of sexual theme-based information in this podcast. So keep that in mind. We always try to keep it as professional as possible. But I guess even at my age, I'm still considered old school. So there's some things that I'm going to throw out there that unless you're from East Texas, you may not understand it, but it gets right to the point. A couple of years ago, while she was mayor of DeRidder, Louisiana, Misty Roberts and her husband and her 16-year-old son threw a pool party at their home there in DeRidder. And it kind of, if you will, it was something that I think you have to remember how this is themed. Our stamp there. There's fact, there's fiction, and then there's theory. Okay. And I'm going to break down what I have found out to be fact. I'm going to break down what I know for a fact to be fiction. And then I'm going to give my theory on what I believe happened that night at their home. And then before we shut the chat down, I'm going to explain to you something that I do not agree with, especially with Louisiana state law. This does not have anything to do with the Beauregard Parish District Attorney. It doesn't have anything to do with the investigation. I think this is absolutely wrong on the part of Louisiana law with this woman, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, when did she actually begin her tenure as mayor of DeRidder?
That would be March 24th of 2018.
Okay, so she has been in office roughly about 6 years. Again, the mayor's position in DeRidder, just like any other mayor's position, it is an elected position. Although there are some states that can appoint when there is an event of a death of someone or things like that. But getting back to Misty Dawn Roberts, the pool party actually took place, and this woman at the time was I believe if I did my research right, she was 40 when this took place, or rather 41. Because Misty was actually, her birth date is May the 17th of 1982. Pool party took place at 195 Plainer Mill Road in DeRidder. This is where she resided at the time that this offense took place. Now, I want to, before we get really cranked up into this, I want to explain something to y'all. Misty has been convicted by a jury in Beauregard Parish. Okay. She has not been convicted by a judge. We're going to get into this as the story goes along, but let me start off telling you what happened. It led up to the arrest, how she was able to bond out, and then we'll get into all this goody stuff here as it goes. So, and you say the pool party took place in this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In DeRidder. And ladies and gentlemen, there was a lot of drinking that took place. We're going to first of all talk about fact behind this. She invited a lot of people over to this pool party. Her then 16-year-old son was there, and his best friend, which was also 16 years old. They were both sophomores in high school. And I do have the name of the victim at that time. However, out of respect to the victims and everybody else that's associated with this mishap that took place in DeRidder, I'm not going to give out their names, even though they're adults now, because there has been no formal sentencing by the judge. This was also at the request of the Beauregard Parish District Attorney's Office. Even though he said that, yeah, legally you can give it out, we would prefer you not to because the judge has not made a final sentence ruling yet. And we're going to respect that. Anyway, this pool party took place. And basically, and we're limited on time here for the chat, but to basically break it down, a lot of people came over to this pool party, and there was alcohol that was present, and basically from truth, anybody could get their hands on it. The reason I tell you that, and we have reached out and received a lot of information from KPLC Channel 7, which is based out of Lake Charles, down south of DeRidder, that covered this story from basically the time of arrest until sentencing. Okay, so a lot of our information is coming from very reliable sources down in southwest Louisiana. One of the things that I will tell you that is fact on this pool party that took place is that there were some juveniles that were attending the pool party and asked Misty's son, which we're also going to keep let anonymity kick in here to respect him. All this alcohol in this certain refrigerator that they located. And he made the remark, "Well, that's all for everybody. It's all for us too. Get what you want," or whatever he said. As this went on, and this also I will call fact on, as this pool party transpired at their home, Misty, indeed, and this was brought out in open court, that she was in their pool in their backyard in a bikini.
That's right.
A two-piece bikini, if you will. She was heavily intoxicated, according to many witnesses in open court there at Beauregard Parish in the courtroom. And what basically had happened in this is one thing led to another, but fact, in reality, Miss Roberts and her son's best friend, you got to remember they're both the same age. They're going to school together, okay? Begin flirting, if you will, with each other. Now, one of the things that we have, and you, folks, you can't really believe everything that you read on social media, okay? Because a lot of people abuse social media. But some of the comments that I read in regards to the aftermath of this are absolutely astounding. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more as we go along. The flirting began. And yes, several people witnessed this at the pool, that Miss Roberts, and for the respect of privacy, we are going to call her son's 16-year-old best friend, we're going to call him Joey for this podcast, okay? That's how we're going to identify him and keep his actual name a secret. So, Mrs. Roberts and Joey began kissing, okay? This was out in the open. People could see this. And in open court, the Joey, if you will, our alias Joey, got on the stand and he did say that he told Misty that he did not feel comfortable with them doing that and everybody watching. Now, yes, folks, I'm skipping a lot of steps, but you've got to understand I got a lot of material to cover after conviction. So they move indoors. So the pool party continues, and yes, our alias Joey also admitted he'd been drinking, that he was drunk. They moved indoors, and that is where, well, as you would say, the fat lady sung. There were witnesses that testified in open court, and one of them, unfortunately, was her son, that said that he peeked in through a window and saw her remove his own mother now, okay, remove her top, and then Miss Roberts opened the pants of our alias Joey, pulled the pants down. At that time, some skips were made. We're not quite understanding exactly how it came to video. The son apparently went back to the same window with his cell phone and began recording video in which he claimed in open court that he saw them on top of each other. Now, a lot of you may be asking yourself a couple of questions already. Number one is, why is the son videotaping his own mother having a sexual act? The second thing that some of you listeners may be asking yourself is, where is the husband during this time? For those of you that may not know this, her husband, and yes, this came out also, this is fact, her husband is gay. Okay, now let's take a step back in time and let's get off of fact and let me jump to theory before I go to fiction. Now, the theory is my base theory. It's not the theory that the district attorney, the judge, all the people on the jury, this is me personally speaking. This is theory. I firmly believe that when Misty Roberts and her husband got married, he wasn't gay. Because if he would have been gay, why would he have married a person of the opposite sex? We could say, in theory, possibly he was bisexual at that time. And as the living together, the marriage, and time went on, he became gay. Okay, and he wasn't giving her any. Okay, and this is where this sexual theme is coming out. So bear with me. And I know I should use other wording, but again, we're limited on time. I don't firmly believe in theory that those two, Misty and her husband, had had sex in quite a while. Okay. Now, if it's true that her husband is 100% fully gay, well, no, he ain't putting out to her. I think we can all agree to that in theory as adults. So, my theory of what happened inside was after they started kissing at the pool, they went inside the house. And that is where the sexual acts took place. This has been admitted in open court. Misty Roberts admitted doing it. Our alias Joey admitted doing it to each other. My theory to this would be she hadn't had it in a long time. She had her opportunity. She was so intoxicated. Did she really know what she was doing? Did the 16-year-old, our alias Joey, did he really know what he was doing? Folks, the answer to that question is absolutely yes.
Well, one thing that we hadn't mentioned that I was thinking about is that these pictures that were supposedly taken was taken from the second floor outside a window. I'm curious as how that came about.
We actually have not been able to confirm at this time if that was a two-story house. Okay. This is now we're going to get into fiction. We're going to jump from theory to fiction. We cannot confirm. I don't think anybody can confirm it. Okay. I don't think it was ever brought up. There was nothing ever brought up in open court about it. But what was brought up, and now there was talking about fiction, is that, and this was some of this, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to call BS with AI. Okay. There was some things put out on social media that, again, we call him our alias Joey. He admitted to somebody or to some individuals that get floated out on social media that he laced Misty Roberts' drink with a drug is called Rohypnol. Now, this, for those of you that may not know about this is the sex,
The date rape.
the date rape drug, if you will. If that were true, and we're still on a fiction level, okay? If that were true, well, hell, this would all be thrown out of court because Rohypnol would incapacitate her mind. She could not either give consent nor not give consent. That's what it would do. In talking, and when I first heard about this and I was getting things together, I'm like, well, wait a minute, why are we even going to court? I made a telephone call to Brian Lestage. I'm sorry, James Lestage. Brian is the clerk of court. James is the district attorney. James himself did not actually prosecute this case. This was actually done, what we call in Texas an ADA, an assistant district attorney. I spoke to Mr. Lestage on the phone several days ago. He had told me that was some kind of AI generated miscommunicated lies and things of that nature. That, of course, yes, I mean, and he totally agreed with me. If that was the case, we wouldn't even be where we're at right now. But yeah, the sexual act took place. Whatever they did, my theory is it was probably a combination of probably both of oral sex and straight up sex or whatever they did, and then they just come on outside. And let's but before we go back to fact, let's stay on fiction for a minute. No, there was no evidence that ever proved that Rohypnol was ever used. There was nothing in open court in DeRidder that either one of them were on drugs. And this is where we're going to jump back to theory. Okay. Folks, something doesn't make sense here. First of all, the son admits that he filmed them through a window when they were on top of each other. Then the son gets up the next morning. Also, this is an open court testimony. Well, the video that he took doesn't match what he remembered seeing. Why is he filming his mother doing this? This makes no sense. This woman, Misty Roberts, at that time was 41 years old. I mean, she's old enough to be this child's mother. Okay. And they're in there engaging in sex. A lot of things don't add up with this. Where is this video at? Was it deleted? Was he so intoxicated he made something up? But let's jump now back to theory. Now, I hope, and we've seen through our webpage, anytime you visit our webpage, your ISP information is recorded. You can't use a pinger. You can't fool it. This web stat is spot on, if you will. I've noticed before the recording of this podcast, we're getting a lot of people out of DeRidder that are looking at this webpage, the AlanFitz.com. So I kind of hope that the defense team is listening to this. And I also hope that Mr. Lestage as well is listening to this, because, gentlemen, something does not add up here. Why would a 16-year-old boy, if you will, and we're talking about Misty's son, get in open court? And I've got the transcripts. I mean, they're right in front of me from KPLC. And admit that he took a video of his mother and asked to describe what he saw, and they're on top of each other. But yet the next morning, he gets up, apparently looks at his cell phone, and the video that he described, it's not what he remembered seeing. Fact. Now let's jump to theory. I'm going to tell you what my theory is on this. I'm going to tell you where you guys went wrong down in DeRidder. And it's not your fault, because Misty Roberts told her son, open court testimony, lie until you die. The woman already knew that she'd been recorded somehow, some way. Maybe she glanced backwards, could identify her son, saw a camera in his hand, his cell phone. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, she told her own 16-year-old son after the fact, lie until you die. See, folks, her own family turned her in to the authorities. Her husband was one of the main ones that said, no more. I'm going to tell you why it's not you guys' problem down there trying to prosecute this thing and the defense team trying to do what you're doing. Lie until you die. It was too late to do anything. If an arrest or even a complaint, if the DeRidder police had been called that night, this Again, our alias Joey, we're calling him. If the police would have came in and were notified of everything that happened, this case may be going a different direction. I'm going to tell you why. It's called a BD, a blood draw. They could have drawn blood from Misty Roberts, the alias Joey that we're identifying that she had sex with, her 16-year-old son's best friend. Even her own son himself could have been tested. Are we absolutely sure that all they had in their system was alcohol? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Nobody knows.
And won't know because it was over 5 days before she was arrested for.
Yes, absolutely. Only a fly on the wall could tell you what happened in that bedroom.
Right.
And that fly, folks, is long gone. Something does not add up with this. And one of the things that do not add up is the evidence on a cell phone that supposedly recorded Misty Roberts and her 16-year-old sex partner. Where is that video? I don't believe we will ever know. Lie until you die didn't work for very long. Again, her family turned her in. She was arrested. And generally, in a situation like this, Mr. Lestage, if you're listening to the podcast this afternoon, I do apologize for not asking you this in our prior conversation. But I've been told that judges do not like to make bond for things like this. What exactly was Misty Roberts charged with? Well, she was actually charged with 2 felony offenses in Louisiana. The first one is under the Louisiana Revised Statutes 1480, known as carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Now, folks, basically what that means in layman's term is rape. Whether rape actually occurred or not, and I'm going to get back to the statute in just a moment. But I'm also going to go back and forth from fact to theory on this. Felony carnal knowledge is one of the charges she was actually convicted of. And what the statute actually reads is this occurs when a person who is 17 years of age or older engages in sexual intercourse with a person who is 13 years of age or older, but less than 17 years of age, provided that the age difference between the two is 4 years or greater. Truth. The second charge that she was hit with and convicted of is called indecent behavior with a juvenile. That's a felony offense involving lewd or lascivious acts, communications, or grooming of a minor under age 17, which is punishable by imprisonment and fines. That's Louisiana Revised Statute 1481. A lot of people out there, or AI, whatever it could be, have actually, and some of the comments that I've seen on this is really, really disturbing. It's almost like everything that I've read and the comments that I've seen, it seems like the whole town of DeRidder has backed her up on this. You know, some of these comments that some of these guys get on these social media platforms, well, why couldn't, if it had happened at my pool party, I'd have got on her too. And just stuff like that. And again, and I say this on every podcast, you have to remember we live in a different generation of time. Before I get in a little bit deeper about the statutes and how she made bond, what judges do in Louisiana do not like to bond people out on stuff like this, because there's that there's the fear that the bench judge has that she's going to go out and do it again. They're going to get together, and there's going to be more offenses committed, and the next thing you know, it just gets out of hand. So, getting back to where I was at with this, so she is arrested. She's charged with carnal knowledge of a juvenile, indecent behavior of a juvenile, and from what we understand, bond was too high. That has not been confirmed at the time that this was recorded. Her defense team, the fact, okay, we do know for a fact that she was able to make bond only for the purpose of being able to continue to raise her children. I'm sure there were some kind of restrictions on that. She probably cannot leave the parish. She definitely cannot leave the state, even though I didn't have time to confirm that. I feel pretty confident that I'll mix fact with theory on that. Now, a lot of things have transpired on this. She was actually scheduled on the 17th of this month to be sentenced by the judge. She's looking at possibly up to 17 years in the Louisiana State Penitentiary for what she did. But that has been postponed. I believe I was told officially until June the 10th. That is when the judge is going to formally sentence her. Her defense team was able to get an extension for this. And folks, I can also tell you something else. We're going to talk about fact and theory mixed together as well. When she is sentenced, you can I'll bet you any amount of money there's going to be a lot of appeals on this. One of the things that I'm strongly going to go with theory, and we're going to go back to why the son was videotaping this encounter. Louisiana is a ground state. Okay, and I'm not talking about coffee grounds. I'm talking about grounds for divorce. And over here in Texas, I'll give you a little example right quick. You can file for divorce here in Texas and get before a judge, and the judge says, why do you want a divorce? And you basically can tell the judge, I don't want to live with a son of a bitch anymore. And they'll grant it. Okay, you don't have to have any grounds. That's not the case under statute in Louisiana. Theory. Remember me talking about her husband was gay. Okay, obviously, in theory, now they wouldn't have no intercourse. They wouldn't doing nothing. One of my theories that I have is that we may be dealing with something called entrapment somewhere down the line before this sentencing actually takes place. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by entrapment. I have a theory that the father did know that the son was recording this sexual act of his mother and his best friend. Now, wouldn't you think and the husband has actually filed for divorce, okay? And from what I understand and interpret, he's not going to stop it. But wouldn't you say, theory-wise, to turn it into truth, that if the divorce judge could see that video, wouldn't that be grounds for divorce for her husband?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. They have photos too, so I'm sure that that judge is going to be looking at that, and that is grounds for divorce.
Yes, absolutely, it would be. But wouldn't this also let's turn this back to truth slash theory? Can that video actually be used in that court and they can't find it in this case. See, that's what I'm saying. Something is wrong here. But the husband has to have grounds, or vice versa. Misty would have to have grounds to divorce her husband. He still has to have grounds to file for divorce, and he can't get it granted unless there's proof of it. That video that I keep talking about, where is that video? Folks, that video may come out. I'm telling you, that video is somewhere. It may be buried in their backyard somewhere. Okay. It may be on a hard drive that was sucked off that cell phone. We don't know. But he's still going to have grounds because, I mean, he can't just go into divorce court, pull her in there. Did you have sex? No, I didn't. Well, you already got convicted of it. So did they really need the video? Well, the answer to that question, I would say, would be yes, because she hasn't formally been charged yet. Although we are getting a little off subject here. But, there's something that's just not right about this. There's too many people. And one thing that I even brought up to you the other day before we recorded this is, why wasn't Misty Roberts and her husband stopping these underage kids from consuming alcohol? I mean, it was a free-for-all at their house.
I don't know. Maybe that's something Louisiana people do. I don't know.
To quickly get off subject, somebody, because I used to live in Louisiana many, many years ago. I lived in Sabine Parish. I lived in a little town called Manny. And somebody called me up on a telephone from over in Texas somewhere and asked me a question. Says, well, is it really true that people in Louisiana get drunk and eat crawfish and andouille sausage and corn on the cob on Saturday night? And I said, no, that's not true. That's every night. I mean, there are people, I mean, that's a tradition down in Louisiana,
Absolutely.
especially. It's a lot of drinking. There was some things that came up, and just kind of sifting through some of these things some of these comments that were made. And one thing there were actually two things that touched my eye. And I'm going to tell you theory. We're going to shift back to theory again. What's going on here with Misty Roberts? Folks, I'm here to tell you right now that both Misty Roberts and her 16-year-old, as we have been talking today, we call him Joey as the alias name. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. Absolutely. But here's what the problem is, in fact, with this case. This child is only 16 years old. In the state of Louisiana, consent is 17. Okay? That's both for the male and the female. Well, Misty's way older than this boy. A lot of people were talking about throw the Romeo and Juliet law into it. No, that's not going to work because Misty is well over even twice his age. And the Romeo and Juliet law is for close-aged people they're having sexual activity. So you can throw that out. That's fact. This is my theory of this entire situation that's going on down in Beauregard Parish. By Louisiana law, in fact, this is truth. The 16-year-old that we keep referring to as Joey, legally by law, could not consent to consensual sex with Misty Roberts. In theory, he can consent emotionally. Now, folks, I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm gonna get pretty blunt with this, and I'm sure Lila's gonna agree with me on this. We live in a different generation of time. It's not like it used to be. Okay? Years and years ago, 50 some odd years ago, and I'm sure you can attest to this. Some good-looking young man out there has got his eyeball on somebody's daughter, and it comes to the point, you need to meet my parents. Okay. And when the boy shows up over there, of course, the daddy's over there. He's probably got overalls on. And he walks up to the boy and says, "That's my daughter. You do anything to her, I'm going to beat your ass." Okay. That's not what is happening in today's time. You are hearing more and more about older men, younger women, older women, younger men, boys. Yes, it's illegal, but you would be surprised how many people are doing it and getting away with it. Okay. Back in those days, it used to be called statutory rape. That's what they called it here in Texas. Louisiana is the old Napoleon law. They have different terminology for this. So, because Romeo and Juliet law can't kick in, I personally believe, in theory, that Misty, in the minds of everybody, every juror that she had to go before, of her peers, everybody that's in the professional setting in DeRidder, Louisiana, in the mayor's office, the county clerk's office, the courthouse, are automatically shaming her because he could not give consent. What is your view on this?
Well, it comes down to a matter of morality, um, regardless what the law says. We all know better than to mess with younger people. I mean, at an age, you have a woman go after a 10-year-old, she's going to jail just like a man would if going after a 16-year-old. And that's actually the way it should be, in my opinion. I don't believe in this early mixing at all.
I'm going to tell you, this is also fact mixed with theory. I'm going to tell you how all of this could have been avoided. And they would have probably got a slap on the hand. And we're talking about Misty Roberts, her husband, and all the other adults that were there, because that's an accessory to the fact, would have gotten a slap on the hand for allowing access to alcohol for these juveniles. But I'm going to tell you what Misty could have done that may have worked better for her, and she wouldn't be in a situation she's in. And then before I close out the chat, we only got about 12 minutes left. I'm going to tell you what I don't agree with of what they're doing to her. I think a lot of people have come down on her because they automatically assume she's guilty, because they're using the term rape. That is not the proper termination. It's carnal knowledge, even though we all know it still mixes into the same language. But I think a lot of people have pointed their fingers at her and have automatically assumed that she's guilty, simply and only because the 16-year-old by law could not give consent. In a physical standpoint and in an emotional standpoint, yes, he could. A 16-year-old knows what's going on. It was also said in open court during their sexual encounter, their escapade that they were doing, "To get off of me, I'm dizzy." Okay? What is he dizzy of? Is he dizzy because he's had too much to drink? Is he dizzy because he's with a woman 2.5 times his age and she's showing him something he's never seen before? He was probably a virgin when it happened. Or was he on some kind of drug? There's a lot of drugs out there that'll make you dizzy.
Absolutely.
But you can't find that out now because all that's done burned out through the system and they've urinated it out, or it's gone through the pores of the skin and all that stuff. Okay. I think a lot of people are looking at Misty Roberts as a she-devil. I really and truly believe that, because he was, by law only, he couldn't legally consent to it. What she could have done, and this is theory and fact, They could have dated. There is, and folks, call your district attorney up, both in Louisiana, on all the parishes through there, and all 254 counties here in Texas. There is no law on the books that says it was illegal for them to date. Okay? They could have done this for a period of 2 years when that boy, and we're calling him Joey again, that's his alias name, turned 18 years old. And then, yeah, they're both consenting. Well, actually, he wouldn't have to wait but 1 year because in Louisiana, it's 17. They could have waited 1 year or whatever, how many months it was until he turned 17. And then they could have had all the sex they wanted, and they wouldn't be going through this right now. Folks, this is a prime example of what alcohol, what drugs can do to impair your mind. Alcohol is a drug. It is a mind-altering substance. I don't care what her defense team has to say. No offense to the Beauregard Parish District Attorney's Office. I don't really care what y'all have to say. All I do know is that you're only doing your job to prosecute her because the child could not give consent. And folks, that's really what this is all about. It's not about whether he can't remember the video that he took. It's not that he can't remember what he saw. It's not how much alcohol that they had to drink. It's that he could not give legal consent because of his age. I know a lot of them probably like to turn their back on this because, folks, this is going on more and more in today's society. Okay. You got people out grooming kids. You got people doing this. You got people doing that. They got caught. I'm sure the prosecutor down there would agree with me. Nothing's illegal until you get caught. Well, they got caught. Now she has to reap the consequences of her actions. Okay. And folks, no matter what you have heard, no matter what you have read on social media, it boils down to one thing and one thing only, and this is the fact. He was 1 year too young by law. Before we get off the program this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something I don't agree with. I don't agree with this whatsoever. This is not theory. This is not fact. This is not fiction. This is reality. For those of you out there that have a computer and you're able to get on it because, I've got 7 minutes left. I can take it a few minutes over. You can go to what is called ICrimeWatch.net. Again, that's the letter I, crimewatch.net. And what it does is it pulls up all the parishes throughout the state of Louisiana. You go down to Beauregard Parish and you click on it, and you click her. You type in her name, Misty Roberts, and when the page comes up, it shows a picture of Sheriff Mark Herford, titled with the Beauregard Parish Sheriff's Office, and you scroll down and it has Misty's picture. This is her bookend picture. This was also brought up in open court about all these tattoos that this woman had. I love you written on her abdomen and all of this stuff. What is this woman doing? It's serving as a mayor, as a tatted up woman. Folks, you see this tatted up here and there. I mean, that's just part of society, okay? And yeah, I know years ago I've talked about this on previous podcasts. That's just something women didn't do, okay? But now it's something that's part of society. I don't know what in the hell her tattoos have got to do with this, unless she just wanted to show them all off to the young man. And then, anyway, getting back on subject. It gives her address, 195 Plainer Mill Road in DeRidder, 70634. It shows the two offenses, the carnal knowledge of a juvenile, 1480, and then 1481, indecent behavior with juveniles. And below that, on both offenses, you see a conviction date. This was last month, folks, March the 3rd. Now, in talking with the Beauregard Parish District Attorney's Office, I found out exactly what the statute was on this. And apparently, Misty Dawn Roberts was given the opportunity to select trial by judge or trial by jury. And obviously, she went with trial by jury. Okay. I want you folks to understand she has not been convicted by a judge. She has not been formally sentenced by a judge. And this is where Texas and Louisiana law really differ from each other. The grand jury of 12 found her guilty of carnal knowledge of a juvenile and indecent behavior with juveniles. Apparently in Louisiana and under statute, a jury can convict you without a judge actually signing anything. The page that I'm referring to is that she is now a convicted sex offender on the Louisiana sex offender database. And I don't agree with that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you why. And I don't care what anybody says to this. I do not agree with that because a judge has not made the final ruling on this. Where am I going with this? Alan, a lot of you may be saying, just because Miss Roberts has been convicted by a jury, the defense team could bring in evidence that could overturn this. A judge could find her not guilty. It would be difficult to do, which means that this would have to be expunged off of her record. In Louisiana, and I can confirm to you this is truth, that the offenses that she was convicted on cannot be expunged by Louisiana law, which means she's going to carry this around with her the rest of her life until she is in the grave. And it's still going to be on there after that. I'm not understanding Baton Rouge lawmakers at this point, because how can you say a woman is a convicted offender, but yet the judge has not sentenced her? What's your take on that?
I don't know. It's Louisiana law that I know nothing about. I don't know. That's just the way they do it in Louisiana. It may have been from the old laws that
the old Napoleon time
wars. But yeah, she is absolutely on the record. I found it myself this afternoon, and they put the date as March 3rd. So that was when the court made its decision, but the judge hasn't.
Well, that's actually when the jury made the decision. Okay. Now, folks, what I did do, we're just about out of time. What I did do is I did contact the district attorney, again, down in Beauregard Parish, there in DeRidder. And again, that was James Lestage. And he did confirm to me, and he did this by email, because, I don't know Louisiana law either. Okay, I had no idea. I'm not going to read exactly what he typed to me because that's between me and him. But what he did say was there is a separate hearing in June that may contain factual testimony, and at that time, the judge may use that to determine the sentence. He typed some other information to me that I was requesting, and I will read the last part of his email to me. An individual has 3 business days from the date of conviction to register if they are not incarcerated. One of the reasons she had to do that is because when she was convicted, the bond continued on. She was still allowed to stay out because her defense team wanted her to be out where she's able to still play the role of mother. I mean, and raise her children. I mean, guys out there, look, I know a lot of you have probably done a lot of things growing up. You disappointed your parents, you disappointed your mama, you disappointed your daddy. But I want to tell you something before we close out. No matter what you have done, your mother still loves you. Her kids know what she's been convicted of, okay? But the mother still loves her children, whether they side with her or not. She gave birth to these children, and it's her obligation to take care of them. She's still their mother. Okay. So this is why Misty Dawn Roberts' name is on the Louisiana sex database. Again, and Mr. Lesage, I know it's out of your hands. It's state law. I don't agree with this one bit. You know, back where I come from, over here on this side of the Sabine River, way up here in this part of the Texas Panhandle, a jury can say you're guilty, but nothing happens until a judge puts his signature to it, and then you hear the mallet hit. Boom. Next case.
Right, with the code, the little
The gavel.
gavel and the code they put on
Oh
there.
yeah, and I have seen judges get so mad that they broke that
Gavel.
no, they didn't break the gavel, they broke the thing they struck it with. So but folks, this is and we're already past an hour. This is a shell shocker. It really and truly is. A lot of people out there have said that this 16-year-old, and again, we're calling him Joey as his alias name to protect his privacy out of respect because he is a victim in this case. If he had already been sentenced by the judge formally, yes, I would release his real name. But out of respect to him as a victim, we're not going to do that. I firmly believe that the 16-year-old, again, he couldn't consent by law, but yes, he knew what he was doing, and it's just one of those situations. And it's really hard for me to describe this and really put it in terms where anybody can understand it. It's an unfortunate situation that this happened. I don't firmly believe, and I'll go back to theory again. I don't firmly believe that Misty Roberts intended for this to happen. I don't think the 16-year-old uh, thought anything about it was going to happen. I don't think this was premeditated. I think this is just something that happened. And, you know, again, telling her son, lie till you die. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she could have got away with this because eventually the statute of limitations would have ran out. And I do not know what the statute of limitations are on this. I know a lot of felonies in Texas, you have to prosecute them within 1 year, except in cases of arson or felony terroristic threat, it goes up to 5 years. I don't know anything about Louisiana state law other than I know a lot of state troopers down there, and this is primarily a joke, can be bribed out of a ticket with a 5-pound bag of crawfish, especially if they're down in the southern part of the state. I think it's just a really bad situation. I don't really think that they planned on it happening. But then again, when you have a marriage that she was living in, you know, you just had to expect at some given time something was going to happen.
Well, from one of them, but I mean, they obviously agreed to this marriage knowing that he was gay.
Absolutely.
So she knew um, what that entailed at the time they got married. Now the children changes things, and maybe she thought that he was going to change, and that's ridiculous. Men don't change. Um, but the alcohol had a lot to do with it. Neither one of them had sense to not get caught.
Yeah, I mean they could have got away with it, and folks. We got to get out of here. We're already an hour and 5 minutes into this, but I just want to say in closing remarks that this woman, her career is over with. A lot of you out there, we've read your comments on Facebook about this young man is destroyed. He's damaged for the rest of his life, folks. In theory, I don't think so. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and I think he'll continue on what he was doing.
Well, you got to look at a 16-year-old boy hitting on a 43-year-old woman. I mean, that in boys' locker room puts him up in high status.
Yeah, and really, we've got to get out of here, folks. Believe this or not, but this is my own theory in closing. I know it's a bad situation for Misty. I know it's a bad situation for her husband. I know it's a bad situation for her best friend's son. But no matter how you look at it, legends have been made in Beauregard Parish. And with that being said, that will wrap it up for this Friday edition of the chat. Coming up next week, and you can check both our YouTube channel, which you're listening to this podcast on, youtube.com/at alanfitz.com, or rather just at Alan Fitz. You can also go to alanfitz.com to pick up different topics that we're going to be talking about. Coming up next Friday, there is a Facebook page out there here in Amarillo that I find, and I hate to use the word behind this, it's absolutely stupid. You can go to alanfitz.com right now and you can see this. It's the Coming Up podcast for next Friday, April the 17th. It's called Who's This Bad Driver in Amarillo? And it features Interstate 27. It features Interstate 40. This is not actually the real picture of Amarillo. Some of it is, a lot of it is AI created. But some people here in Amarillo, they've created this page, and some people do nothing but go around and film drivers speeding. They will film somebody that's parked. Maybe they've run over a curb, especially double parked. And they seem to think that this group page that they have in taking pictures of people and video and their license plates and all that is going to stop them from doing this in a city over 200,000 in population. You definitely want to check out Alan Fitz Podcasting Facebook page on Monday. We've got a little video trailer to kind of give you an idea of what is coming up on the next podcast. It is a ridiculous face page that really and truly needs to be exposed. We'll talk about it next Friday right here on the chat. And as always, my friends, until we meet again next Friday, have a great afternoon, a great Friday, if you will. Have a great weekend. This is Alan Fitz and Lila Kirkland Fitz saying bye for now.